What up, cappers, gamblers, punters, hustlers, low baggers? Welcome to the morning bag right here on Pub Sports Radio. We are running nice right now. I often struggle after a massive day. We had a massive day on Tuesday, 19 and 6 plus 12.01 units, but yesterday, 9 and 5 plus 3.84 units. So, very thankful to get over that. I shouldn't. I hate that that's in my head, and I tried to not let it affect me yesterday. So we're 28 and 11 plus 15.85 units over the last 2 days, and I just want to get back at it. Thank you guys for joining us. Stacks play today 1 and 2 here. Justin McKelvey Burleson over 2.5 hits, runs, and RBIs, and the Aces minus 14.5. I joined you on the Aces minus 14.5 last night, and I could have got 14 before the show started. 13.5 was the opener at most spots. I was hoping today we'd wake up and see a 15. That's not the case, so a little disappointed with that, but we'll see how it bangs out. Josh Witt ready to get to work. Barn burner pick of the day is Astros team total over 3.5, and Alvarez over 1.5 hits, runs, and RBI parlay. He's coming off a massive day yesterday. Toby Lane says, I want to bet the Raiders, but I feel it's going to be a weird-ass game. I did bet the Raiders. That's moved 10 cents since I bet it, but and I also I bet that game pretty hard. I'm on the under, but I also bet the Texans team total under 16.5 at plus 115. I would have liked to have gotten over 17.5. I said the 17.5 I would have loved to have gotten. I didn't have most of the sites that I use, especially the main three, and Penny and BetOnline and Bet365. Only 365 had team total, so I'm a little nervous about the investment. And I'm a little nervous that I simplified it too much. So we'll go over all of that. Tactic Cliff in the house, Josh Witt, Nicholas Handy, Billy Friedrich. Pig Milk play of the day is in as well. Cards first 5 money line. I love my baseball slate. Again, having more confidence or extra confidence does not equate to higher ROI or anything like that. In fact, sometimes when I'm extremely confident, it's not that helpful. But I've got some nice CLV, and I thought the red. We're gonna get into the Reds Cardinals game first off the top, but I thought that first 3 was so expensive last night, and it's even 15 cents more expensive now. I moved on it last night, but I was astonished. I was going back and forth with Mark Sosowski about the price. We'll go over all of that. We'll go over all of these things. A Walla Dose in the house. Mark Sosowski has the Athletics. First 5 plus 105 going up against free bands. That is not what we're looking to do here, but I'm right with you. I'm on Gage. I'm on Gage as well. I almost doubled down. On the first 5s that I bet. I almost bet the first 3s as well, and came extremely close to that, and I didn't. So we'll see here. Colin Gregory in the house. Old E Rabbit ready to get to work. Turn Buckle Tommy off. Another big day. Love to see it. T-Moss. Ricky Bobby's joining Stacks. He's on the Burleson as well. John Bender says, short, dicey card. Look, it's a short, dicey life, Johnny. Let's get used to it. Luis Antonio Chavez ready to get to where Kelly McKinnis. Professor Chris. Great to see Professor Chris in the house. Dewan Turntine. Dewan be making money wherever he goes. I love rocking with Dewan. And we had a nice day yesterday. Bogey Boy ready to get to work. Thank you guys for joining us. Let's attack the board. We go right into Major League Baseball. We start at 12:40 p.m. Eastern. Afternoon baseball. Life is good. St. Louis Cardinals 65 and 62, 33 and 28 on the road at the Cincinnati Reds, 60 and 66, 31 and 35 at home. We're at Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati, Ohio. Let's get right into the offensive conditions because they're not that offensive. Plus 7% runs, plus 2% homers, plus 9% doubles and triples, and minus 2% singles. So far less offensive than we've been seeing at Great American Ballpark of late. And you can tell by just the weather breakdown in between combined and stadium. The weather is minus 4% runs, minus 13% homers, plus 6% doubles and triples, minus 1% singles. Let's get rolling. My man TJ in the house. TJ, in 31 hours, I'm picking you up at the airport for Sports Rage 25th anniversary, the Low Bag Summit of Champions at Woodbine. and Argos Ticats. This is the perfect time of year to come up to Toronto. You're going to like it. It's not always going to be this glorious. Josh Witt on St. Louis, first 5 money line. Let's get into it. We have Burleson, as we talked about, off the top. So right off of the top, we've got specialty plays of the day and Stacks getting to work in afternoon action. I got to switch it over to ours. Hopefully that won't change anything. Oh, it does. So let's get that back over to here. There we go. Stacks play today right up the hop. Burleson over 2.5 hits, runs, and RBIs.
Stacks, 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 stacks.
Gosh, it will happen, my friend. I promise you that it will happen. We make a very important point of, these guys that you cap with all day long that become your best friends, that make it real. So it's important to us. Pig Milk play of the day is on our first game on the card as well. Cards first 5 money line for the sweet, sweet nectar of pigs. We have Gio Bed and Jermaine in the house. So let's talk about the spot. First off, I guess we got to stay in there's so many times I want to skip our regular order and it just doesn't help. I want to talk about this line so badly. But let's set the table. Let's set the table here. We have Michael McGreevy going up against Brady Singer. I felt like I've had a good read on Brady Singer this year. I don't want to ever get too confident on any reads because they blow up in my face. But I feel like I've had a good read. We'll leave it at that. We have McGreevy here, who has a 3.48 ERA, 1.22 whip. It's got the 5.47 expected ERA. If you were with us on a show where Spoons was from the chat explaining why the ground ball pitchers get hurt by the expected ERA statistic, it was very important. I felt that was such an important thing that happened in our chat that day, because it's an elephant in the room for a lot of these pitchers, and they're all ground ball pitchers, and they have this exorbitant expected ERA, and that was important for me to be able to get past. So I get past it with these ground ball pitchers. McGreevy's last start was an interesting one at the Cubs. Their 3 runs were scored while he was pitching, but none of them were earned. He looked pretty good in it. He's not been going deep into games. He's not been pitching at a very high level in comparison to what we saw from him earlier in the year. He had 3 straight before he went 6 innings at the Cubs at Wrigley. He had 3 straight starts, where he didn't make it through 6 innings. Robert Franklin's on Singer over 2.5 earned runs and the over 9. But we're talking about McGreevy right now. McGreevy can get soft contact. The Reds' ability at righties is just meek. So I think this is a fine matchup for him, especially when we get a great American ballpark that's not offensive, where the weather's not hurting us, where we're not getting plus 19, 20% home runs and plus 19, 20% runs. So I think McGreevy should be able to have a day here. Let's talk about Brady Singer, 4.66 ERA, 1.44 whip. He's got a 5.03 expected ERA. And look, he was bad to start the year. We don't need to sugarcoat it. He was bad. Mid-May, he had 2 starts where he combined to allow 8 earned runs over 7 2/3. He allowed 6 home runs, and they skipped him for a start. And it really helped him. He looked much, much better. Much, much better. And it just continued. Like he's if you go through his profile since his start was skipped, he is a top-level pitcher. He's had 1 start where he's allowed over 3 earned runs. And he's only had 1, so he allowed that start on June 28th, he allowed 5 earned runs. He had 1 start on July 22nd where he allowed 3 earned runs. Other than that, it's just 1 run or 2 runs. He's having good starts, and he started to go deep in the games. The start before the All-Star break, July 9th, he went 7 1/3, allowed 1 earned run at home versus the Phillies. July 17th, in the thin air Colorado, he went 7 earned runs and allowed 7 innings, allowed 2 earned runs. The last 3 starts, He's been professional. They're all quality starts. He's gone 6 innings in each of them. I really like what we have been seeing from Brady Singer. And we talk often. I think the biggest advantage that we have in baseball is when a pitcher has numbers that you think aren't a realistic portrayal of what that pitcher is doing. That's our edge. And we've had it with Brady Singer now for 2 months. And it's important to have that edge. Shout out to Robert Cherry in the house. So I look, Brady Singer is quality start after quality start. He's had 6 quality starts in his last 7 opportunities to start a game. What more could you ask for? A pitcher with ugly numbers that you know is pitching better than them? Perfect. Let's get to the bullpens. Reds bullpen 4.38 ERA, 1.28 WHIP. Cards bullpen 4.12 ERA, 1.35 WHIP. Mediocre. I mean, the St. Louis bullpen moving in the right direction. The Reds bullpen tired, moving in the wrong direction. But I care more about 30-game sample size rather than 10 or 15. And then when it comes to the sticks, these teams can't hit and don't have power. Perfect. Cards versus righties, 253, 667 OPS. Reds versus righties, 209, 665 OPS. So I just see this all falling into place. Let's get into the line history for our first game afternoon action here on the board. We've seen 4 cents of movement towards McGreevy from minus 105 to minus 109. Now, this got to minus 118 at 7 p.m. last night. It was still minus 116 at 7 this morning. So now we're down to a minus 109. I'm comfortable with all of that. And then the total, this is where I'm really comfortable. We have a 9, minus 113 to the under. So this total initially moved 8 cents to the under. Now it's moved 3 cents to the under. When it's a 9, I can get a 3 on my first 3 unders. When it's a 9, I can build a 3. I use the Ron Crawford minus 1 calculator. And then you use the 3.5 with the 2.5. So, I expected if I wasn't going to get if I wasn't going to be able to build a first 3 under 3, I would at least, at a minimum, get a plus 105 on the first 3 under 2.5 or a plus 110. And then Bet365 was very slow putting out their first 3s, and first 5s. And it's because I bet you they're a little concerned with how who knows? I don't want to add that in, but look, we're crushing in first 3s right now. And so when I looked after the show, I didn't get to look after the show, it was a minus 105. Well, that didn't make sense if you compared it to the other games on the board that had lower totals than this. And those games I'm talking about are Athletics Royals. They have an 8.5 now, minus 120 to the under. We'll get into the line history there. As well as the Braves White Sox, which at the time, the Braves White Sox had the lowest full game total of all of them. But the Cardinals Reds game was a minus 105 to the first 3 under 2.5. So I wondered at that point, is this going to move towards the over? Do I need to bet it now? And I thought, you know what? Trust it. Bet it now. And then I woke up and it's a minus 120 to the first 3 under 2.5 now. With a 9 at minus 115 to the under. So I now at this point, now obviously we'll see if this catches. So this is a first 3 under 2.5 for the pick'em now at Bet365. That's the lowest first 3 I've seen on a 9 this year. And I think that's a very good sign. So I am on the first 3 under 2.5. I got it at minus 105 last night. It's now minus 120. And that's with a 9, minus 115 to the under. So I'm very pleased with the situation I have. That's my only bet on the game. When we get to the cash flow here for this one, we have 75% of the tickets and 90% of the cash on the Cardinals. And when it comes to the total, 55% of tickets on the over and 62% of cash on the under. So big bets are coming in on the under. It's a pick 'em at all the legal spots here at the 9. So I'm very comfortable with the situation. That's how I'm getting my day started. We're running very nice in MLB. We got to keep it going. So my day gets started with the first 3 under 2.5 and minus 105 here. And look at that. Billy Friedrich says DraftKings has that first round 2.5 at plus 100 right now. That's extremely interesting. So it's 20 cents different at 365. We got bottom of the ninth bets in the house. Great to see you, bottom of the ninth. OG Swag rolling with us. Philly Eagle Flyer ready to get to work. And Professor Chris says, I can't get to a side here, but the model is St. Louis at minus 109. So we are in business. Game one in business. First three under 2.5 for me at minus 105. We roll on. Next spot on the board here, San Francisco Giants to Cleveland Guardians, 1:10 p.m. Eastern. Giants 51-74, 22-41 on the road at the Guardians, 61, 65, 30, and 33 at home Progressive Field in Cleveland, Ohio. Let's talk about the spot. One thing I think that's important to recognize. There's a lot of people complaining, Guardians backers complaining. Look at all the CLV I got. Look at all the CLV I got, and they lost, and that's a legitimate complaint. I just think that we should all see these line moves, and just keep this in your head. When the line moves immediately, immediately, like the Twins game yesterday, and that was only 25 cents, but it moved immediately for the first hour and a half that the line was available. The early line moves compared to the Guardians line move. Now I know part of that was predicated on the fact that we thought maybe Adrian Hauser was going to be starting, and it turned out to be Tugboat making his debut. But even when Tugboat was announced in, it took 8 or 9 hours for there to be movement. And then the movement came. The movement came, and it was massive. But it came after 7 or 8 hours of it being available, with people in the know knowing that it was going to be Tugboat starting and not Adrian Hauser. Just keep an eye on those spots that don't move right away, that take 8 or 9 hours, because I would bet heavily that the ROI on the games where the movement is immediate compared to where the movement is delayed, and this was a major delay, that the immediate movement would have a much higher ROI. And that you should probably question the big moves if the line was available for 8 or 9 hours and it didn't move. So I just think that should be kept in mind here. Colin Gregory, play today. White Sox first 5 money line. Going to copy and paste that right now. We got Sharpie in house. Is waiting on lineups, but Williams is my favorite K-pop metric-wise. Too much bad zone contact, which plays into Williams over strikeouts here. So let's grab this here. And bottom line says it's a red flag signal back. We want CLV, so I don't know if I wouldn't say that that it waiting, it not appearing for the first 8 hours is a red flag. I just think it should be something that we are always aware of. We should be hyper vigilant with the marketplace. I think that's the only way I personally believe that we will find long-term success, sports gambling, especially as a volume bettor like myself. Okay, so let's get into the breakdown here for this one. We're at Progressive Field in Cleveland, Ohio. Weather-wise at Progressive, minus 3% runs, minus 10% homers, plus 3% doubles and triples, and minus 2% singles. We have Landon Roop, 4.31 ERA, 1.30 WHIP, 3.76 expected ERA. The Giants are 2-16 in his last 18 starts, and he's not been pitching very well. 3 of his last 4 starts have been poor. 3 2/3 on July 28th, 4 earned runs, and 8-2 loss at home versus the Brewers. Sunday, August 2nd, 4 2/3, 5 earned runs, and a 5-4 loss at the Padres. He had the benefit of the Marine layer. It was an earlier start, so it wasn't that big of a benefit. Then he has a good start Saturday, August 5th at home versus the Tigers, but he follows that up with a poor performance. 4 earned runs over 5 2/3 at home versus the Rockies. So that first start before the All-Star break, the first start after the All-Star break, he looked great. But you would think here that that this is a situation where arm fatigue could be in play. Now, I don't have his velocity numbers in front of me, and there's been no word from their camp that his velocity is down. But he's just not pitching at such a high level. Agent Parlay thinking nerfy here. We have our guy WT in the house joining us from Costa Rica. Man, what's happening? Let's talk about Gavin Williams. 11-7, 3.74 ERA, 1.08 WHIP. Has a 3.91 expected ERA. Let's talk about Gavin here. He's been really good until that last start at home versus the Padres. The last time he had a bad start at home versus the at home and then got to start again 5 days later, he shoved. It was the first start after the All-Star break. He allowed 5 earned runs over 6 innings at home versus the Pirates, and then he shoved at home versus the Twins, 7 innings, doesn't allow a run. So, the time before that where he had a bad start on the road, he followed that up with a much better start, albeit on the road again. With this all said and done, Gavin Williams is pitching well. I would expect Gavin Williams to have a great start here, like Sharpie is. But this is extremely low total. And I don't know if I can trust these pitchers at a 2. Now, also, everybody has the bias of what happened in the Guardians-Giants game yesterday, the 1-0 game. We got TV Jones in the house. Great to see you, TV Jones. So this isn't a first 3 under I moved on. And I tried, but I just didn't feel like I had the confidence for such a low number. Let's talk about the bullpens. The Giants bullpen 4.80 ERA, Guardians bullpen 4.80 ERA, 1.48 WHIP, being poor. It's starting to pitch better, and we expect it to step up here down the stretch. We'll see if that happens. Giants bullpen 4.13 ERA, 1.47 WHIP, very mediocre all season long. Difficult to trust. Neither team is hitting righties right now. Giants versus righties last 30 days, 232, 694 OPS. Guardians versus righties, 254, 693 OPS. And AM says Sparks +9 just popped up. I think we can get more. I think we can get higher than that. I want more. I want more at this point. So, Bogey Boy's got Cleveland -1 and -135 in his pocket. Let's get into the line history here for the spot. This total is a flat 7. A flat 7. So, there was a 7.5 available this morning. I mean, I could have got at 7 a.m. this morning. I could have got a flat 7.5, and now we have a flat 7. So, this opened up at 8 -120 to the under. So this is a big, big move to the under. Everybody saw a very low-scoring game yesterday, and the idea would be, well, there's better pitchers on the mound today. There's been a massive move to the Guardians yet again. -155 to -198, 43 cents of movement. You would expect this one to come through here. And when we get to the cash flow here, and I would like to look at the price difference as well, but when we get to the cash flow for this spot, we have 91% of the tickets and 94% of the cash. It hasn't changed. What you see in the graphics hasn't changed in 23 minutes that we've been live. 55 and 61 on the over. That's exactly what we have still right now, so no updates there. And I'm just comfortable not being involved in the spot. We'll take a look at the price difference here. And TJ says you already know this is the exact range where I want the first 5 plus a half, right around even money. And that's being, when TJ said that's extremely low volatility, where the market's telling us we have a very low volatile game, and this has very low volatility with a 7. So the Guardians are -198 full game. First 5 are -183. The Giants are +180 full game, and first 5 are +157. That's a huge difference. Huge, huge difference towards Roop. Wow. I don't know if I can get there. Colin Gregory leaning there as well. It wasn't on my radar at all. And I don't, I'm not going to. But it wouldn't surprise me if that's a great bet, TJ. I have some concerns with what I've seen from Roop, and I'm going to carry them with me. Here's a thing. Now, he had to start on the road right after the All-Star break, but since then he's had 5 starts and 4 of them have come at home. Well, I saved a ton of money not backing Walbert Arena early yesterday. Why? He'd only thrown 2 1/3 innings on the road post All-Star break. I think he's a phenomenal pitcher. But that's just not a situation that appeals to me. So there's Morgan Spooner in the house. So I'm off the game. I've had first 3 under 2.5 question mark. Now, of course, it'd be a 2, but I've had it there for a long period of time. The first 3 under 2.5 here in Roop Williams. Now they've got it's listed as 7.5 -125 to the under. I'm surprised that 365 is off market so heavily. This first 5 you could still get a 4 under -125. And the first 302.5 is minus 150. It really isn't that expensive. That's a cheap first 302.5 for a 7, a flat 7. And I don't want things to really be cheap. So, Life Ice, thank you for rocking with us. I'll be wrong a lot, but yeah, it saved me a lot of money not being on the arena, and I think it's something that we need to keep in our pocket. When the pitcher's been in a very comfortable situation and completely in their routine at home for a long, long period of time, and they go out of it, then it gets a little risky. I'm off. Let's roll on. Next spot on the board here is Toronto Blue Jays, Tampa Bay Rays. We're at the Trop in St. Petersburg, Florida. I wanted to be on the Rays -1 last night, but this line was moving against us, so I did nothing. Let's talk about the spot. These Rays are very good at home. Jays trying to stay in this wild card race. Shane Bieber 4-2, 4.99 ERA, 1.56 WHIP, got 6.83 expected ERA. Look, if Shane Bieber's at home, I'll back him in a heartbeat. I want him at home. He's looked questionable on the road. Now we have a controlled environment in Tampa, so there's no reason why he couldn't look good here. But I don't have proof of concept. When he couldn't make it through an inning at Washington, well, that was the first road start I backed him on this year, where I was like, look, he'll bounce back from that, and he did. He allowed 1 earned run over 5 2/3 at the Astros. Then he went to Philadelphia, and it was offensive conditions, but we watched Scherzer and Nola shove. We didn't see Bieber shove. He allowed 5 earned runs over 5 2/3. Then he bounced back at home versus the Yankees, and we were all over him. So I don't, and it's not the outfield. It's Jesus Sanchez. You're saying the Toronto outfield costing us first 5 yesterday. It's Jesus Sanchez. He is very quiet. He's got a ton of talent, but there's a reason why the Astros just didn't want him anymore. You can't really trust him in the outfield. You can't really trust him to hustle at times. So I don't really trust Bieber on the road. Let's go into Ian Seymour. 9-3, 4.11 ERA, 1.13 WHIPs. Got a 3.66 expected ERA. And Seymour looks really good. The last 3 starts, he's gone 6 innings in each. He's allowing hits, and he gets barreled at times. He's 3 home runs allowed in those 3 starts, but 25 strikeouts and 3 walks is a really, really nice situation. We got Miss Smokes a lot on Toronto here. Looking at Toronto or moving on Toronto. His awareness on Caminero over hits, runs, and RBIs. Rays bullpen 3.82 ERA, 1.11 WHIP. The Jays bullpen has held its own, and I'm still waiting for it to fall off. 3.57 ERA, 1.45 WHIP. But it's lefties. It's all about lefties for me, which is why I wanted the Rays in the first place. But I wasn't going to step up into this marketplace that was telling me that I was wrong, or at least that the value was moving on the Jays. Rays versus righties, 287, 804 OPS. Jays versus lefties, 230, 583 OPS. Professor Chris has a model showing just under 8.5 runs here over for him. I guess Rod's Wagon saying over the last 10 games, the Blue Jays are 10-0 following a loss. That's a enticing angle, no doubt, Rod. Jays versus lefties, 230, 583 OPS. I mean, it's just ugly. So let's get into the line history here for this spot. We have the Rays at -159. This went from -170 down to -154. I don't care that much that it's coming back. That move concerned me. We've had a massive move to the under. Wow. Huh. I could have gotten under 8 at -125 at 7 this morning. And now it's a 7. I mean, it's juiced to the over, but that's a big, big move to the under, implying that Bieber is going to clearly deliver here. That is a surprise, a real surprise. Let's take a look at the price difference, see if the market is also saying that Bieber is well worth the money. -159 first 5. Oh, the Jays are +146 full game, and first 5 +141. Not that big of a difference. The Rays are -159 full game. First 5 there, -164. Look, I'm off the game. Joel Torres asking about a nerf fee here. 9 legacy on Blue Jays money line. I'm off. I'm off the game. I want to get to the Rays. I don't want to get to the Jays. I don't want to trust Bieber on the road, even though the books are telling us to do so. A lot of love for the Blue Jays in the chat. I get it. but I'm off. Let's talk about a game I really like. I'm pumped up about this game. Now, there are concerns. Sharpie says, where is the money? The money in the Rays game, we have 79% of the tickets on the Rays and 66% of the cash. 71% of tickets on the over, 53% of the cash. So clearly the Jays are sharp action. I'm just not going to get there. So obviously, when you look at the headlines for this game, the first three headlines jump out at you. You know, Nick Kurtz, Rooker, and Bangaliers out. Look, that's a problem. That's a massive problem. It takes a ton of offense away from the A's. And then you have Bobby Witt Jr. back. But does anyone think Caglianone's going to play today? I don't think there's a chance that Cags plays today after leaving the game with the ankle injury yesterday. Now, maybe he does. I don't, but I don't think Caglianone's on. So we're missing. We have 2 weak offenses, and then you miss these crucial bats. I mean, if you look at the OPS of Cags, it's better than Witt's. So you're losing some big pieces. Now we have Dauber and Gage Jump. I knew that the Athletics game and the Yankees game were the games I was just running to invest in. Now looking back at the St. Louis Cincinnati, I wish I had added the first 500, but that's fine. We're in Kauffman Stadium, Kansas City, Missouri, plus 1% runs, plus 18% home runs, plus 1% doubles and triples, and minus 6% singles. So here's another spot where we get a really nice opportunity to have not offensive weather in the summer at Kauffman. We have Gage Jump, 4.50 ERA, 1.45 WHIP, and it's been extremely enjoyable capping Gage this year. You know, him, having such incredible last couple starts in the Pacific Coast League, getting hit in that first start versus the Mariners, but the 500 BABIP, we knew he got some poor luck, and then we were backing him, and it was just paying out. And then he started getting hammered, at the end of June. And that's going to happen for young pitchers. He had a really tough run. But I really believe that when he's put in a position to succeed, he does so. And this is a kid pitching in the Pacific Coast League, which is the toughest, such a tough place to pitch. Then going and pitching at Sutter Health Park, which is such a tough place to pitch. And so I really believe if he's put in a position to succeed and he's in weather that's not detrimental or in a stadium that's not detrimental, then he can deliver. And I like Gage Jump, and I like backing him. And I haven't backed him that often since he started getting crushed. And we have Dauber on the other side. Now, Randy Dobnak so I went through the whole – God, I sat with this game for so long after the late show last night. Dauber's got a 1.73 ERA, 1.30 WHIP. He gets soft contact. And I have a soft spot for these older, these vets that have toiled in the minors for so long that are, don't have high velocity stuff. Watching Jose Urquidy pitch so well yesterday, I enjoyed very much. Dobnak at AAA Tacoma allowed 4 home runs over 70 innings. It was just that the Mariners had a glut of great pitchers, and there was no room for him. So the Royals picked him up. He went to Omaha. He looked very good, and then they brought him up. I tried fading Dauber in that first road start, not when he was because his first couple opportunities, he did have a road opportunity as a primary, but his first road start at Tigers, and he cost me. He looked great. He's looked great in every start except for one at home versus the Cubs. And what did he do? He bounced right back versus the Angels. So let's get to Dauber. All I wanted was Gage Jump because the Royals can't hit lefties. We saw that last night. The Royals couldn't touch the Springs, one of the worst lefties in the league, allowed 2 earned runs over 5 2/3. He almost had a quality start. The Royals got 7 runs against the bullpen. So I knew that I wanted the A's, and I was going to take the A's first 3 and then first 5 plus a half. And then I started getting closer and closer to the unders. I was like, God, the early unders. I was like, look, I know that the Royals can't hit lefties. We saw that last night. Shout out to Matty Ice in the house. Royals versus lefties, 240, 672 OPS over the last 30 days. Those numbers are improving, but and the A's just have no power. They're missing huge pieces to their lineup. 240, 707 OPS over the last 30 days, despite often playing in very offensive conditions. So let's get into the line history, and I'll tell you how I bet it here. So first off, This was an 8.5 minus 120 to the over. Now it's an 8 minus 115 to the over. That's a low full game total. Now, we talked about that St. Louis Cincinnati game as a comparison. That's at a 9 minus 113 to the under. These were both first three under 2.5 at minus 105, despite the Cards Reds game being much higher full game total. And they've both, and I bet them both, they've both since moved 15 cents to a minus 120. But now this is an 8. So an 8 at minus 120, it has to be at least there. But here at 365, it's an 8 at sharper books. 365 still has an 8.5 minus 120 to the under. So they're a little lagging in that regard. But this first three is sitting here under 2.5 minus 120. So I decided to move on the Athletics first three under 2.5 and minus 105. Then I moved on the Athletics Kansas City first five under 5 and minus 128. I smashed that line move. Now, sure, I could have just taken the 4.5. I could have taken the 4.5. I got the first 5 under 5 at minus 128. You can't come even close to that now. This is an 8 at the sharp books. I got the first 5 under 5. So we smashed that line move. And then I'm on the first 5 plus a half. First 5 plus a half on the A's backing jump. And I wanted to add the 3, but I don't want to have 4 units invested in this baseball game. I think that I'm better off sitting with both Jump and Dobnak to deliver. There's been a 2-cent move towards the Royals from minus 135 to minus 137. We take a look at the price difference here. Quickly, here we go. The price difference for the Athletics Royals. We have the Athletics plus 122 full game. First 5 plus 111. The first 5 plus a half you can get for minus 127. That's only 2 cents worse than what I got it. So that's how I bet it, and I'm extremely comfortable with my situation. I've got 3 bets. I only have 7 bets in MLB today, and I've got 3 bets. First 3 under 2.5, first 5 under 5, and Athletics first 5 plus a half here. And Lifebuy says, do we think we get 9 outs from Jump? I do. The problem, Lifebuy, is that I am concerned that Dobnak shuts down the A's. And that's what ended up getting me off of the first 3, or at least, having 4 units invested in this game. So that the fear of Dobnak ended up growing and growing and growing. So much so that I decided to take a first 5 plus a half. Now, with an 8.5 at Kaufman, you could say, well, there's some volatility, but I imagine that there was very low volatility in the first 5 innings because I like these pitchers and like their situation. So I took the first 5 plus a half instead. I am calling him Daubers, Spoons. I've actually got a bunch of nicknames for Dobnak. We don't need to get into them right now. Lineup is out. Sharpies on Gavin Williams over 7.5 Ks at plus 100. There is our guy Troy Torrance in the house. Much love to Troy. Troy has been extremely busy. His beautiful wife Sarah is pregnant, and it was something that we weren't talking about publicly. It's very exciting, but she needed a couple big procedures, scary procedures, and Sarah's so tough. And she got through them with strength and courage, and baby number 2 on the way. But imagine a capper like Troy Torrance, who's on such a run in baseball, and he's not had the opportunity to cap on the closing line show because he's been dealing with such important things at home and being in the hospital with Sarah. So again, Troy leading by example like he always does. And our thoughts have been with the Torrance family. And the good news coming from the Torrance family is absolutely wonderful. So our thoughts are with you, Troy. We love you, man. And you fight the good fight, and you lead by example, and we love you, man. All right, there's Nasty Nate in the house. Let's roll on to our next spot on the board here. Juicy investment for me, and I'm extremely comfortable with the card. I'm extremely comfortable with my card today. So comfortable that usually I wake up in the morning, I'm like, okay, I go over all the the spots that I almost bet. It was none of that. I just feel like I'm seeing the board clearly. I'm investing, and we're eating. Let's roll. Next spot on the board, 2:10 p.m. Eastern. We have the Seattle Mariners, 59 and 67, 26 and 38 on the road at the Milwaukee Brewers, 78 and 48, 42 and 22 at home at American Family Field in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We got TV Jones in the house. Going to be fun to talk Brewers, Mariners. What a crazy series this has been. We've seen this move towards Kirby, and frankly, I don't really get it. I don't even agree with it. The line opened up at plus 127 and moved to plus 116. We had the Harrison versus Bryce Miller game, and that opened up at like a minus 152 or so and went down to like minus 145. And I had no look. I'm fading Bryce Miller every opportunity I get. All I want to do is fade Bryce Miller, and so we had a discussion whether that was the right price, and it was that expensive for the Brewers. And then we have the game yesterday. Of course, the Mariners lose 22-0 in that the Harris, was it the Harris? No, it wasn't the Harris. It was the start after, but whatever. I digress. They lose 22-0 the game before, and then we have the start yesterday, and to our surprise, despite a really good Mariners pitcher on the mound, we thought the Brewers would still be huge favorites, and they were barely favorites. Plus you could get the Mariners at plus 105. I ended up getting a plus 112, but you had to bet the Mariners yesterday. Had to bet them. So we move on to this game, and Kirby opens up at plus 127, moves to plus 114. I mean, so you got to see how you... There's so many different ways of pulling back the layers to this game. TV Jones says, Brewers bounce back. Mariners got a month's worth of runs yesterday. They ain't scoring. Rod's Wacky, though, says bet against Milwaukee on the money line after batting .333 or better over a 3-game span. Milwaukee's record during the 2026 season, 0-5. So let's talk about George Kirby. 8-9, 3.89 ERA, 1.31 WHIP. He's got 3.83 expected ERA. And he's been questionable on the road. Questionable on the road. There's no doubt about it here. The last start on the road versus the Astros, he allowed 5 earned runs over 4 2/3. The start before that at the Rangers, he allowed 7 earned runs over 4 innings. So he's allowed 12 earned runs over his last 8 2/3 on the road. If you go back further than that, there's no problem. He was shoving on the road. So I don't know how much we want to put into those last 2 road starts. The market certainly is moving the line towards the Mariners. We have Robert Gasser. We've talked a lot about Robert Gasser. He's second-round pick in 2021 draft at University of Houston. He came up in 2024 and 2025 and didn't pitch very well, which I thought had him set up to be good in 2026. And it didn't feel like that was the case early, but it feels like that's the case late. He's pitching really well. In fact, if you look over the last 4 starts as the sample size, you're getting better production out of Gasser than you are out of Kirby. And then you also have Gasser at home where he's been really good. So that last start at Chavez Ravine was excellent. 3 earned runs over 6 1/3. So I was fully planning to move on the Brewers today and to move on Gasser over Kirby. And I'm a big Kirby fan. But the market won't allow me to do that. Professor Chris says sneaky over here. We have Brewers bullpen 2.97 ERA, 1.19 WHIP. The Mariners bullpen has usurped the Athletics for the highest ERA out of a bullpen over the last 30 days. It's crazy. The Mariners with all that talent in their bullpen, 6.64 ERA, 1.56 WHIP. When it comes to the sticks, Mariners versus lefties, 230, 672 OPS. They're not hitting lefties. They're not hitting with power, and their numbers are going down. If we flip back to a month ago, they were hitting lefties with power, so that's gone. Brewers versus righties, 251, 726 OPS. Let's get into the line history. Oh, we did the line history, the 127 to 116, and we did the total. I think we did the total. Let's just touch on it again. There's been 16 cents of movement to the under. It was an under 8 at plus 100. Now it's under 8 at minus 116. And we get to the price difference, first 5 in full game. We have the Brewers, or those who are the Mariners side. Mariners are plus 119, and first 5 plus 106. So the market implying that there's a big advantage here with this, with Kirby. And this series has been extremely volatile. I would like to be on the Brewers, but I need things to correlate for an investment, and they don't here, and I'm fine with that. 57% of tickets, 76% of cash on the Brewers. Line's moving towards the Mariners. 67% of tickets and 94% cash on the over. It's moving towards the under. I'm out. I'm out. I'm out. So there's one bet. There was only one bet I didn't move on last night that I was close to. I mean, except for when I was moving on a game with multiple units and I was deciding which units to bet. So let's roll. Braves, White Sox. We're at Rate Field in Chicago, Illinois. A big win for the White Sox not to get swept by the Cubbies in that series. Fun baseball. It's just good for baseball. These rivalries are good for baseball. Let's get into the situation here. First, let's get into the weather here at Rate Field. We have minus 2% runs, minus 9% homers, minus 8% doubles and triples, and plus 5% singles. We have Grant Holmes and Anthony Kay here, and I came very close to this first 3 under 2.5. It was very interesting. This was much lower total at the time than the A's Royals total and the St. Louis Cincinnati first, and these are just for the first 3 full games. So we had the Cincinnati St. Louis total that was at 9. That first 3 under 2.5 was minus 105. You could still get a 9 basically in the Kansas City Athletics game, but it was an 8.5. But juice to the over, and that was first 3 under 2.5 minus 105. And then this total was by far the lowest, and yet the first 3 under 2.5 was plus 105. In the end, that got me off of this. And Turnbuckle Tommy says Braves money line, his favorite play today. Turnbuckle Tommy, Braves money line, favorite play today. Let's get that locked in with our plays of the day. 9 Legacy. I thought I copied and pasted yours, but I don't see it here. Maybe I did it in the middle of a game. 9 Legacy, do you mind putting your... sorry to ask you for this, but do you mind putting your plays of the day? I thought I had it, and I don't. Okay, Billy Friedrich says Sox first 5 in full game, and he says Anthony Kay shoves. The Brewers are hitting lefties. Let's break this all down. Let's go with Grant Holmes first. 3.82 ERA, 1.35 whip, 4.78 expected ERA. There's our guy Jay Peasy in the house. It is great to see you. Never need to apologize for anything here, man. You got carte blanche with us, man. We welcome you with open arms every time we see you. Grant Holmes, I don't need to break down the whole diatribe that I dropped on last night's show. Discussing... He's an emotional guy. He cares very, very much. He suffered the partial UCL and flexor tendon tear in his right elbow late in 2025. He sort of needs to be handled with kid gloves. He asked for a mental and physical reset in the beginning of May, unlike Brady Singer, who was forced to take one. And he started pitching better. And then he wasn't going deep in the games. They pulled him from the starting rotation and said, look, Grant, you're going to be out of the bullpen now. We're going to use you as a primary in the next game. He was extremely angry. He didn't allow a run over 4 innings as a primary, and then they put him right back into the starting rotation. He looked good. He was pitching good in the starting rotation, and then he has 2 brilliant starts to start August. Tuesday, August 4th, 6 innings, doesn't allow a run, 4-2 win at home versus Marlins. Sunday, August 9th, 6 innings, only allows 3 hits, and a 2-1 extra inning win at the Yankees. So 2 beautiful starts. And then he gets hit hard in that last start. Hit hard. At home versus the Diamondbacks, 6 earned runs over 3 2/3. I think he's more than capable of bouncing back. And that was leading me towards, wanting the first 3 under. Then we have Anthony Kay here. Anthony Kay, 9-5, 4.01 ERA, 1.34 whips, got a 4.99 expected ERA. It was clear when he was being used as a primary multiple times early in the year that the White Sox didn't really trust him, but he's earned their trust. And he's pitching really well. In fact, this last run of starts, let's say from the beginning of July, let's go from July 3rd to his last start, August 15th. It's the best he's ever looked in the majors. That last start, August 15th, he went 5. Oh, thank you, Flank Steak. I'll get that here in a second. Let me just finish this breakdown. Flank Steak play today is the Braves, so perfect timing. I knew it was. I couldn't find it. August 15th, 5 1/3, 3 earned runs, 1 homer, 4 Ks, 1 walk, and a 4-3 win at the Tigers. That's the first time he's allowed more than 2 earned runs. He hadn't in 6 straight starts. He's pitching well. TJ says it's the spot for the Braves. It's the spot for the Braves. Says I'm on Chicago White Sox. 13 games over 500 at home, and I can get a plus 100. Sign me up. See, that was the thing that when I was going back and forth with Mark last night, that I thought that this was not that this was implying that this was giving a lot of respect for Grant Holmes. I mean, and I wrote that here to him. I was like, how could this? It doesn't make sense. I was like, oh yeah, it says, I said I think the line's respecting Holmes. White Sox are 37-24 at home. Shouldn't they be favored here? So the line on the White Sox, it's funny that, and I don't like the in and out for one game either, TJ, but it's funny that I felt different. I thought this got me really nervous about the White Sox. Why on earth would this be the case? It just didn't make sense. So that's how I saw it. Let's get into the line history here. We have this total at 9 minus 120 to the under. Now it's an 8.5 minus 115 to the over. Look, that was the line last night. This has not moved since 2:19 p.m. Eastern. So I'm curious to see what the first three has done. Then on the money line here, we have 6 cents of movement towards the White Sox from plus 104 to minus 102. I don't understand why they would open up at plus 104. And TJ says, is it too obvious? Because I was waiting to see public sentiment, and I'm hearing all Braves love here. And Turnbuckle Tommy says that's why he loves the Braves today. I just don't. Look, the Braves are. I was trying to figure out. I was looking at breaking it all down last night. I was like, look, the Braves are 22 games over 500 overall. They're a really good baseball team. Now they're only 3 games over 500 on the road, but they're a better baseball team than the White Sox at this point. Now they won't be next year, but White Sox are only 5 games over 500, but the 13 games over 500 at home. That I just thought, how are they not favorites? They should at least be a minus 115. So let's take a look at the cash flow here for the spot. We got it up there. 57% of the tickets, 87% of cash on the Braves, 40% of tickets, and 83% of cash on the over. I don't believe that's changed at all. It's changed slightly. Look at this now. It's 60% of the tickets and 74% of the cash on the Braves. So this has changed in the 53 minutes that we built the graphics 53 minutes ago. 60% of tickets on the under and 83% of cash on the 60% of tickets on the under and 83% cash on the over, so 40 and 83. So the total hasn't changed at all here either. So let's take a look at what this first 3 under is now here. So it was plus 105 last night, which didn't really make sense to me, even though I think it's more than possible that these pitchers get through these 3 innings with 2 runs or less. And now it's minus 105. I don't want it. I don't want it. And I don't know. So I'm going to stay off this game. I have a 7-game card that I really, really like. We're running very, very nice. And I just want to stick with the spots that I'm really confident in. TV Jones says White Sox bullpen is fine minus Grant Taylor and the Braves flying in to play this game, then up to Milwaukee after the game. In and out. They don't care. Sale versus Mizrowski tomorrow. That's their focus. I don't think there's any comments that I disagree with. None in this with how you guys see this game. I'm just not in. I'm going to stay off. This is Turnbuckle Tommy's favorite spot on the board, Braves money line. There is a concern here. This right field's going to be empty. We'll talk about this concern in the Orioles-Yankees game, but right field's going to be empty. So, you just played the Cubs in front of packed houses every day. How is that going to affect? All told, let me just get my man Robert Cherry's Pamper Pop, a parlay of the day locked in. I'm off. I'll cheer you guys on, but I am off of the spot here. So we roll on. Next spot on, that's a relief. I didn't move on it at plus 105, then I'm not going to move on now. This is the game that I have made my investment in. Now, I left the show last night thinking this was going to be 4 units of action. In the end, I only put 3 units on this spot. I let the first 3 go. It's funny, I talked to you guys about how we've got CLV on these first 3 unders in the first 2 games. I don't in this one. In fact, it's moved 10. The first 3 unders gone 10 cents against us at Bet365. It turned out, I was talking to others that this is sort of off of the line, but that the other books haven't moved this to the under. That it was just 365, sort of off market. But let's get into the spot. I love this game. Garrett Cole versus Kyle Bradish. I really wanted to know. Interesting, Billy Friedrich. I will copy and paste that. I really wanted to know if there was because I want Garrett Cole in sold out environments where games mean a ton. This isn't going to be sold out. It's not even be that close to sold out. We also got some weather issues that we need to look into. Let me just copy and paste this from our guy, Billy Friedrich here, because it sounds like something I would like. Any kind of horse racing movie I would like. All right, let's get into the weather here for us at Charm City, Baltimore, Maryland. Baltimore weather. And I thought we were going to be fine here. Let's see if that is different. Heavy rain showers at 4 p.m. and it's cleared by 7, according to these sites. So we have heavy rain showers before the game. So maybe the game is pushed back a little bit here. I'll check it out for sure, Billy. I'll check it out for sure. So let's get into this. Yankees, Baltimore Orioles. We're at Oriole Park, Camden Yards, Baltimore, Maryland. Let's get right into the weather here. We have plus 4% runs, minus 1% homers, plus 10% doubles and triples, and plus 3% singles. Turnbuckle Tommy is the first 3 under 2.5, minus 125. So do I. Oh, he's got the minus 130. I got the minus 125. But, sorry. Let me just double check that. Yeah, I got the first 3 under 2.5 for minus 125 as well. That line hadn't moved. The first 5 under 4.5, I have a minus 120, and I have the Yankees first 5 at minus 125. That's the one that's moved 10 cents against me here. Okay, so let's talk about the spot. This is my big investment. I think Garrett Cole is bet on. Bet on. I would prefer to have him in the most intense environments right now, sold out situations. That's how I want Garrett Cole. And so I was going to have Garrett Cole first 3 and first 5. The first 3 was too expensive at 365. It was minus 140. I don't need to be sitting. I don't need to add a minus 140 to my card. He's pitching at a very high level right now, and I trust him quite a bit. 4 earned runs over his last 4 starts. I have a little concern about 27,000 fans in a 45,000 seat stadium against the Orioles. That maybe So let's get into Bradish. 7-11, 3.65 ERA, 1.36 WHIP. Professor Chris says his numbers have the over here. He took the over 7.5 at minus 120. We have Bradish. He signed a $90 million contract, $90 million 5-year contract. This is a spot for Bradish that I really think he steps up going up against Garrett Cole. Bradish can go pitch for pitch with Cole. He didn't look great. He looked great in that first start after the All-Star break, first start before the All-Star break. He looked great. Then that second start was a struggle for him. It was the rain was an issue too in that game, but he only went 2 earned runs over 3 innings. Saturday, August 8th, he didn't get pulled because of rain. There was I have to go back to that game now. I know that it was a rain-shortened game, but it was called after 6 innings. Maybe he was pulled. He wasn't pitching well, though. He was 3 innings, 2 earned runs, 1 homer, 3 Ks, 2 walks. August 8th, he bounced back beautifully at the Rangers, 1 earned run over 6 innings. And then that last start at the Rays. So he's had back-to-back road starts where he looked really, really good. Really, really good. Nasty, I'm on the first 3 under 2.5 in the Reds game. But it's a very expensive price for a 9. Very expensive. So I believe both these pitchers are going to pitch at a very high level. Let's get into the bullpens. Orioles bullpen 4.18 ERA, 1.33 WHIP. They were pitching at so well, and then they kind of slipped a little bit of late. Yankees bullpen 2.93 ERA, 1.27 WHIP. And then Mr. Williams, nice to have you here. Nasty Nate, there's a little more. If you just give me a couple minutes, I can go back to more. There's more action in that game because we had Stacks play of the day and Pig Milk right off the hop. So I can tell you quickly, the Stacks play of the day is Burleson over 2.5 hits, runs, and RBIs, and the Pig Milk play of the day is Cards first 5. So we had a lot of action in that game. I'm on the first 3 and 2.5, so there's 3 different bets there. The sticks, these teams are not hitting. Orioles versus righties, 217, 667 OPS. Yankees versus righties, 191, 606 OPS. We have, the Yankees with real bullpen issues. 4 important pieces have gone back-to-back days. TJ says Cole better go all 7, maybe 8. You got plus 105 on that under. Perfect. So here, because that's 25 cents better than it is at 365, Nate. For me, I knew that I wanted just to focus on Cole and Bradish, and that's what I did. I'm on the first 3 under 2.5, and I'm on the first 5 under 4. I was concerned when I looked at the market. This was the one that didn't go with me here. It's despite this being at 7.5 right now. The first 3 here is at minus 135. Okay, that's a relief. The Yankees' first 3 is now minus 135. That's moved back 5 cents here at 365. And then I got the first 5 under 4.5 at minus 120. First 5 under 4.5 here is a minus 140. So look, the line's moving where I wanted to. Topset said he studied this game for an hour. He's on the full game under. I would be if the bullpens weren't in the shapes that they are. I have 3 units invested. I'm not gonna move on that first 3 with the Yankees at minus 135. I deem it just a little bit too expensive. His analyst says Yankees so public, tough to judge the line moves. Sweaty Butcher in the house. Let's talk about these line moves here. The line history for where the hell is it? Here we go. Line history for this one. We have the Yankees going from minus 125 to minus 120. That's a concern. 5-cent move against them. Now, I'm only on that first 5. And then from a total standpoint here, we have the 8 minus 115 opener to the over. Now it's a 7.5 minus 112 to the opener. And then when we get to the cash flow, we have 82% of the tickets and 62% of the cash on the Yankees. 50-50 on the ticket count, but 89% of the cash is on the over, and yet it's dropped from 8 to 7.5. Colin Gregory says Orioles avoid the sweep. We got just my 2 cents in the house. And TV Jones says potential rain delay. O's did this with Chris Sale the other week. They'll try and start the game and then rain and get delayed to remove Cole. Yankees bullpen fried. It's O's for TV Jones. Mr. Wesker's also on the Orioles. I think that the only thing they can do is push it back. There's no rain in the forecasted site. I looked at 7 p.m. The heavy rain's at 4 p.m. But it's possible. I'm comfortable with my spot here. I'm not going to add heavy vig. John Bender has the Orioles as his play of the day at plus 107. But I'm comfortable where I stand. First 3 under, first 5 under, Yankees first 5. I at this point, after seeing all of the, what's gone on in the marketplace, I feel more comfortable with my first 3 under and first 5 under than I do with the Yankees first 5. I'm not going to add the Yankees first 3. I don't need that extra investment if the vig is going to be so high. So there we go. Let's roll on to the next spot on the board. At 8:05 p.m. Eastern, we have the Washington Nationals 60-67, 33-31 on the road to the Texas Rangers 62-64, 33-27 at home. We're at Globe Life Field in Arlington, Texas. This one threw me for an absolute loop. I could not believe the line here. I could not believe the line. Let's get into... Well, first off, look, how this line moved so heavily towards DeGrom didn't make sense to me at all. 40 Kid in the house. Great to see you, my man. Andrew Alvarez, 3.72 ERA, 1.33 whips, got 4.48 expected ERA. The last 4 starts from Andrew Alvarez have been very good. He had a start in Colorado after the All-Star break that was, okay. It's tough to pitch, obviously, in Colorado. But then these last 4 starts have been good. Not going as deep as you would like maybe in the games. Monday, July 27th, 4 1/3, he allows a run at home versus the Jays. We know they can't hit lefties. Then he allows 2 earned runs over 6 1/3 at the Phillies. That's hard to shut down the Phillies at Citizens Bank Ballpark. And then at home versus the Reds, 5 1/3, he allows 1 earned run at home versus the Reds. The Reds can't hit lefties. We don't need to put too much into that. And then the 4-1 loss at the Mets, 2 earned runs over 5 2/3. He's pitching well. So I love to hear that, TJ. So there's Alvarez. And then, Colin Gregory says the Rangers are hitting lefties. I mean, the Nats are hitting righties over the last 30 days harder than the Rangers are hitting lefties. So, in that the TJ's unders are on the Yankees game. Here, if you're watching on replay, they're not for this game. Jacob deGrom, on the other hand, 3.95 ERA, 1.17 whips, got a 3.68 expected ERA. And deGrom has looked terrible on the road and brilliant at home. Not brilliant. Let me take that back. He's looked terrible on the road and he's looked okay at home. Or good at home. So we're supposed to expect just that he comes back home that he's going to shove here. The market's saying, look, he's going to come back and shove. He was removed from Thursday's start against the Angels after 2 innings due to right tricep fatigue. He said he wasn't concerned. The imaging revealed nothing. So, he was just pulled from the game because he sucked. 6 hits over 2 innings. He walked the batter. He just didn't look very good. And he was supposed to start yesterday, but I guess, I don't know, save face or something to give him the extra day when he had some phantom injury that got him off the mound. Now, look, I can say these things that I want to fade DeGrom or that I think that the over's got to be in play. But I'm just not going to go up against the books when they're telling me I'm wrong. I'll just say, okay, fine. I'll look something else to bet. So the last few home starts have been good. August 8th, 1 earned run over 5 innings at home versus the Orioles. July 26th, 1 earned run over 5 innings at home versus the Mariners. So those are the post All-Star break home starts. He had a bad one right out of the All-Star break, but again, we talked a lot about that. Not a lot, but we talked about that last night, about the vets just struggling in their first start after the All-Star break. Topset says Rangers is where I was at, and the line confirms it. I guess I'm ready to fire on the Rangers. Look, I get that. This line has been very dramatic. Let's get to this total. There's been 5 cents of movement to the under 7.5. I was surprised it opened up at 7.5, and then the first move was 10 cents to the over. I was like, well, that makes sense to me. Since then, there's been 15 cents of movement towards the under. That is a surprise. A surprise. We get to the money line here for this one. We have minus 135 to minus 160. It's come back a little bit. Got up to minus 163. That was a high water mark at 11:01 p.m. last night. So we've had this big move towards the Rangers. And then when we go to the price difference at Penny, first 5 in full game, we have, here we go, the price difference. We have the Rangers at minus 158 full game. First 5 minus 165. So there's not that, big of a difference here. And then when we get to the cash flow for the spot here, the cash flow is 80% of the tickets on Texas and 68% of the cash. 80% of tickets on the over and 88% cash on the over. Thinking the same thing as me here. Life says, why is the first 300 minus 154? Can you tell me what is it 2.5 and what game you're talking about, Life Ice, and we'll be able to discuss that better. And Colin Gregory telling us that Troy fired on the Rangers. Look, I'm just gonna stay off. If the books are telling me I'm wrong on my take on DeGrom, and then I want to fade him so bad, and I can't. I'm just confused by this whole thing. Oh, Life Ice says this game with DeGrom. No, they're saying Life Ice. Now, I would not ever bet a minus 154. The implied probability will just get you into trouble. You're not going to be able to hit at that rate. So I would use like a minus 1 calculator to turn it into a 2. Is what you'd have to do here. Is make it a first 302, which I don't like. I'm going to pop the minus 1 calculator in the chat for anybody. I didn't get a chance to answer it, but there was a message on our YouTube video asking how you get the 3s. Nobody offers you 3s. They offer you 2.5 and 3.5, so you have to build the 3, and you build the 3 with this minus 1 calculator right there. I'm off the game. Let's roll on. 8:10 p.m. Eastern. We have, and Caesars has minus 135 if you want the under 2.5, says Spooner. Thank you, buddy. So let's go Angels, Astros. Angels 70 and 56, 21 and 40 on the road. Astros 63 and 63, 31 and 32. Oh my God, these comments, I just can't get enough of. Can't get enough of. Yes, I do. But yes, I'm just starting to now. I wasn't, but now I am. Now I do smell it. It sounds like taint is on the way. That is the signal. That is the taint signal. Yeah, Jerry, I had a lot of thoughts about it, and I talked about it. I don't have any more than what I just jumped in on. I don't. There was nothing wrong with him. He was just pitching bad, which he does on the road every time he's out there. And I want to fade him, but the books are telling me not to. That's, I guess, the end result of it. The taint play of the day is the Astros double result. Astros double result here for taint play of the day. And then Tom said, why isn't Grayson Rodriguez good? Taint double result in play. Let's get it. Taint double result, backing Lambert, fading Grayson Rodriguez. So Grayson Rodriguez, let's start with him. We're in Dyken Park in Houston, Texas, where the Astros are a game under 500 at home. And leading their division? Crazy. So we have Grayson Rodriguez, 7.17 ERA, 1.59 whip. It's a very highly thought. I don't have action on this game, top set. Grayson Rodriguez was a very highly thought of prospect. Very, very high draft pick. Looked very good as an Oriole, and then got hurt in 2024. We didn't see him for a long time. He has, but top set. The last few times you've told me not to do it, my ROI is, obviously through the roof. But that wasn't the case before. Just the last 4 bets you've told me not to bet. I've bet them and they've cashed. But I hear you. I'm not in on this one. Grayson Rodriguez last pitched in the majors in 2024. We didn't see him for a long time. And Grayson Rodriguez has faced the Astros, and they're the only team that he is, looked good against. He's had 2 starts against the Astros, and he's delivered. And it's because they don't have lefties in their lineup, and Grayson Rodriguez can't get lefties out. So it's a problem. It's a problem for the Astros. So they pick up Varsho. They should have picked up more left-handed bats. I don't know why they only picked up Varsho. But just adding that third lefty bat is going to help them against the pitcher in Grayson Rodriguez who can't get lefties out. But look at these, last starts. I don't know how you trust them here. Friday, August 14th, 3 earned runs over 4 innings at home versus the Royals. August 9th, 3 earned runs over 4 innings and 12-3 loss at the Marlins. He had that a good start against the Astros at home. Now they're going to see him for the 3rd time, obviously. But the August 4th start was against the Orioles, against the team he was drafted by. He turned back the clock. I can't back him here. I can't. I can't. And Topset says your conviction has been a blessing. It has been. When you have you need to have it. And then I like being questioned by you, Topset, because it helps me always. So I can't really trust Grayson Rodriguez. And then we have Peter Lambert here on the other hand. And Peter Lambert has been pitching good. He's been pitching good. He's had a great season. Look, he's been much better than anyone expected. His velocity climbs 4 miles per hour to 96.7. We've seen him at 92.3 basically his whole career in Colorado, where he's getting absolutely annihilated. And then we have the last few starts. He's allowing 2 earned runs in all of them. He's getting hit. He's getting out of jams. He's allowed 2 earned runs in his last 5 starts. Only one of them is he went 6 innings. All the rest he went 5. One other he went 5 2/3. He's being good. I imagine he outpitches Grayson Rodriguez, but he's not being great. And it'd be fair for Peter, who's dealt with so many injuries throughout his career, that we're at 118 2/3 at this point. Is he getting is he dealing with any kind of arm fatigue? These bullpens are very good. Astros bullpen 2.76 ERA, 1.04 whip, very good. Angels bullpen 3.33 ERA, 1.25 whip here. These bullpens are very good, and these teams are not hitting. They're not hitting very well. When looking at the Astros are hitting righties, it's the Angels that just can't hit anything, and I mean anything. They can't hit anything. So with it all said and done here, I just don't really want to be involved in this game. Let's get into the line history here for this spot. We've had a big move towards Grayson Rodriguez. We had it last night. I didn't want to move on it then. Plus 189 down to a plus 162. This was a move 22 cents towards the Angels within the first 61 minutes this line was available. I didn't care then. And then when it comes to the total here in this spot, we had a 9 juice to the over. Now we have an 8.5 juice to the under, which it implies here that Grayson's going to pitch well. And look, that's all well and good, but I don't want to be. I don't want to be involved in this game. I don't really. I've watched Lambert very closely as trying to figure out, what steroid he's on. But he's been making us money. He just doesn't look quite as bullish on the mound as he did when he opted out of the contract when he didn't make the team out of spring training, and he called the Astros bluff and they brought him up. It was a great power move. When we get to the cash flow here, 93% of tickets, 94% of cash is on Houston. 83% of tickets on the under and 92% of cash on the under. So it's no action for me at all. And Johnny Preston says Lambert isn't giving up the homers, which is what the Angels would probably need. That's all fair. That's all legit. All right, so there we go. That is the MLB card for Thursday, August 20th. I'm not adding anything. We are in MLB. We've gone 23-10 over the last 2 days. It's 23-11. Excuse me, 23-11 over the last 2 days. 28-11 overall because of 5-0 in WNBA. But I love my card and I'm sticking to it. 7 bets, heavy investments in the New York-Baltimore game and the Athletics-Kansas City game, and then St. Louis-Cincinnati. So I'm only betting 3 of the 9 games that are available, which is unlike me. But I love the card. I invested heavily on the games that I wanted to invest in. St. Louis, Cincinnati, first 3 under 2.5 at -105. Athletics, Kansas City, first 3 under 2.5 -105. Athletics, Kansas City, first 5 under 5 at -128. Athletics, first 5 plus a half at -125. New York, Baltimore, first 3 under 2.5 at -125. New York, Baltimore, first 5 under 4.5 at -120. And New York, first 5 at -125. And it was. I can't tell you how important it was yesterday. I've had this issue since I started where if I had a monster day, I would always lose that next day. Always. And I was like, this is stupid. It's in my head. It's in my subconscious. It's, I got to stop it. So having a nice winning day yesterday was crucial. I don't want that shit hanging over my head. So I was very pleased that yesterday was a strong day. TJ's bets are in as well. We'll go over all of the action for everybody's specialty plays of the day in a second, but we've got NFL to talk about, and I need a week 2 of the preseason badly. So let's get to work in the National Football League. We got 2 extremely interesting games that I can't wait to talk with you guys about, so let's get right to it. Let me just get down to my notes here. And let's roll 8 p.m. Eastern with the LA Raiders at the Houston Texans here. And the Texans resting their starters. That's a big part of this whole cap. And AM timed his action perfectly. We're at Energy Stadium in Houston, Texas. The Raiders with Clint Kubiak in his second game here. And then we have the D'Amico Ryans here, 7-4 in the preseason. This is, of course, his second game. We'll go over both of the games. But the mental aspect of all of this is the Texans were looking very good in these joint practices with the Raiders, and the Texans' defense looked very good. The offense looked very good. And then the Jaden Higgins suffered a season-ending ACL tear, during one of the joint practices, and it just messed with D'Amico and bothered him very much. Jaden Higgins was going to be a huge piece to the puzzle. So he had just watched Graham Mertz also, tear his ACL. Now, Graham Mertz looked terrible, but still, they were building Graham Mertz up. And so he watches 2 players tear their ACLs, and he gets nervous. He said on Monday, was it? Monday, that he was going to, that CJ Stroud was going to be out there, that the starters were going to get 1 or 2 series. And now that he just cut all those plans. So when he announced that was going to happen, this total climbed quickly, and then it's come back. Now it's moved up a half point, unfortunately for me, since I moved on it. But we'll start with this total. It's a 38 right now, and it opened up at 38, dropped down to 37.5, and then it got up to 40.5. Then it dropped down yesterday all the way down to 36. Went down to 36 with the announcement that CJ Stroud and them weren't going to start. Since then, it's back to a 38. So it looks like this move is moving towards the over. On the point spreads for this game here, it is a pick'em and a +1. This line's moving towards the Texans. That's changed since this morning because there had been a 10-cent move towards the Raiders a 10-cent move towards the Raiders when I woke up this morning. That's gone, being a legit move towards the Texans. The Texans opened up at minus 135, got up to minus 143 with the announcement of Stroud going to play, and then went down to minus 103. And then at 10:35 a.m., so less than an hour ago, there was a 14-cent move towards the Houston Texans, which is a bit of a concern. So let's roll here. The week 1 of the preseason, I did not take advantage of something I should have, and that's that the unders were crashing at a high rate. Last year, 14-2-1 to the overs in week 1 of the preseason. This year, 12-4 to the unders, and both these teams cashed unders for me, and I just didn't bet enough of them. The Raiders lost their first preseason game under Kubiak, 27-14. Kirk Cousins played one drive, threw a touchdown pass. Cousins was 5 of 6 for 50 yards, 13-yard touchdown pass to Michael Mayer. Mendoza came in, and he led one touchdown drive in 4 series, and went 10 for 16 for 97 yards, 6-yard TD pass. Everyone talking about how, spectacular, how it's going to be sooner rather than later that he's the starting quarterback. We know Cousins starting game 1 of the regular season. But, 7.7 average depth of target. I mean, Graham Mertz was 7.2, and we laughed at his production. Also, 3.13 seconds to throw. I mean, that's taking him too long. He knows he's got to make quicker decisions here. Now, Vegas is going to have Kirk Cousins out there. And then AOC is going to come out as well as Fernando Mendoza. And I expect some quality quarterback play from them. Texans lost their first preseason game 27-7 at home to the Chargers. Davis Mills started, threw that 5-yard touchdown pass with Jared Wayne on the first series, and he had the starting offensive line. 14-10. Oh, you're talking about Jim or John, Josh? Then Davis Mills had the starting offensive line, and my whole idea about D'Amico Ryan's nervousness, seeing Higgins tear his ACL and Mertz, but obviously to a lesser degree, the whole idea at that point was he's not going to want to start his offensive line, and then he comes out and says, "Look, I'm not starting them." So we saw what Davis Mills is a serviceable quarterback. I mean, you don't want him starting a season for you, but he's a serviceable quarterback. And when he had his starting offensive line, he goes down the field and it scores a touchdown. Well, the starting offensive line's not going to be here. So let's start with that there. And then now, this is a huge point of this whole thought process that I've put into this game, is that they just signed Brett Rippon. There have been times where Brett Rippon has thrown the ball all over the field in a preseason game. There's been times where he's done squat ass zilch. And the idea with Brett Rippon is when he knows the playbook, he wants to go out there and prove to everybody. Now, he's just got to prove that he's competent, right? He's just got to prove that he deserves to be the third stringer on this football team and not make mistakes. So I think he's going to get all the run. I mean, we know that Davis Mills is starting the game. But they need to know what the hell's going on with Brett Rippon. They know they've got everything they know about Davis Mills. They don't need to know. I mean, he's the backup. He's the guy. If anything happens to CJ Stroud, that's going to be under center. So I don't think Rippon's going to be in there for very long. And then we're going to get Davis Mills with, backup offensive line. Sorry, then we're going to get Brett Rippon with backup offensive linemen. Look, I mean, that's the script. So the 14-cent move back to the Texans obviously throws me for a loop, and I was thrown for a loop in this the next game, and I haven't moved on the side because of it. But we have less than a week for Rippon to learn a playbook, and we're going to see a run-heavy scheme and very conservative action. So I made, which now looks I'm nervous. I moved on the Texans team total under, as well as the full game under, as well as the Raiders. So now here, there's been a 5-cent move at 365 on the over 37.5. It was a pick'em last night. And the Chargers-Niners game has gone up a full point. And then when we go to the team totals, and I also decided, to go for a score. I took the under 16.5 at plus 115. Now, I didn't have a bunch of options, but I felt like it was fine. Let's see what it is now. Wow, look at that. Unbelievable. This is so interesting. This line is moved towards the Texans. And the Texans team total under 16.5 that I bet at plus 115 is now. Oh, no, of course, that makes sense. It's now, yeah. I should have waited. I mean, now I can get the 19.5 for the decent. This makes me want to throw my computer. Now I could have got the 19.5. God damn, I did not expect the line to do this, and now I got to deal with the consequences that are going to be terrible. Makes me very nervous. I'm going to copy and paste Top Sets action. Thank you for sharing, my man. So, I thought I had my script set up, but the lines are telling me that I've made a mistake, and it's upsetting. All right, let's move on. But I've moved on the Raiders, the full game under 37.5, and the Texans team total under 16.5 at plus 115. Oh God, that makes me angry. And I'm starting whenever a lines move against me, I just start sweating. I feel like flop sweats are coming on. Justin says, "Don't throw your computer again." All right, let's move on. 10 p.m. Eastern, our second NFL game on the board. San Francisco 49ers at the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, Johnny Preston says the move towards Texans, so Raiders win. And Spoon says preseason the moves haven't been they've been inefficient. They've all been wrong. I get it. They've all been wrong. We Rod Zawacki put that out. It's the same thing that happened last year, but this year it's even more dramatic. No, it's just getting a better line is what I would be looking for here. I could keep my script the same, but you have always been the voice of reason, Spooner, except when you talk about Brandon Pfaadt. San Francisco 49ers, LA Chargers were at the SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, California. The Niners, Kyle Shanahan, 14-13. I've been watching Kyle Shanahan for a long time, and when I see him after the accident, I'm worried about him. Just speaking slower, and I gotta hope he's okay. That was a heavy concussion he took. Jim Harbaugh, 14-10 in the preseason. Shanahan and Harbaugh have both confirmed here that Purdy and Herbert are going to make their preseason debuts for at least one series, that the starters are going to be out there. So that's what we know. We know that we're going to get Herbert and Purdy off the hop. The 49ers lost their first game of the preseason, 19-13 at home to the Titans. That moved to 6.5, right? It doesn't matter. You're going to get Purdy for one series. We didn't get Purdy in game one, but they were 6.5-point dogs. We know that Mac Jones doesn't have to do very much either, so they really wanted to see Curtis Rourke. Curtis Rourke looked excellent, and then Curtis Rourke hurt his ribs. He went to the hospital. He had trouble breathing, and now they're saying, oh, he's fine. He's good to go tonight. And I just find that so hard to believe. So hard to believe. Just ridiculous. The Niners have gone from minus 105 to minus 116, and the whole idea there is that this is all based upon Rourke being good to go or Purdy starting, but we know we're going to see Adrian Martinez for a long period of time. Oh, and I said Mertz had the 7.2 yards of depth. It was in Adrian Martinez with a 7.2 average depth of target. So the fact that this line's moved from the 49ers from minus 105 to minus 116, I can't understand. They dealt with a ton more injuries in these joint practices. We'll go over those. I can't understand it. This total has now moved up to 38. It went down to a 37.5. I thought it was going to keep dropping, and I screwed that up. There's our guy Joey DFS in the house. It is great to see you, my man. So this has thrown me for a loop. Why would they be 6.5-point dogs against the Titans, and this line moving toward them, and they'd be the favorites against the Chargers? So Rourke they're saying he's healthy, which I still find so hard to believe. Then we have injuries from last game. Jack Jones, Nate Hobbs. Nate Hobbs is out now for a few weeks. They have so many injuries right now. Right now to start the year. McCaffrey, Evans, Kittle, Bosa, Michael Williams. They're all banged up. Then we have this Chargers team that's been dominating these joint practices. We saw Purdy during the joint practices visibly upset, visibly angry. The defense couldn't contain the Chargers, at all. and they don't have Nick Bosa out there, again. The Chargers won their first preseason game 27-7, and they looked so good. Trey Lance, the third overall pick in the 2021 draft by the 49ers, you'd think that he'd want to show out a little bit here. In that game one, he was 12 of 20 for 164 yards in the pick. DJU threw a 3-yard touchdown pass. So you're going to get Herbert, Lance, and DJU against what I think you're going to have. I mean, isn't it pretty clear to everybody that Adrian Martinez is going to have the bulk of snaps in this football game for the Niners? So why is the line moving towards the Niners? So this one just throws me for an absolute loop here. When we get to the cash flow for both of these games, there's 60% of the tickets and 89% of cash on Houston, which was making the Vegas Raiders more and more appealing. And then in the Chargers-Niners game, we have 68% of tickets and 87% cash on the Chargers. So why would this flip? It just doesn't make sense to me. 71% of tickets on the under, but 58% cash on the over. This whole thing makes me really uncomfortable. And I've bet on the under 37.5. So I was hoping that we'd come in here and I'd be like, this is what I'm doing. This, and I love the script in game one. Now, if the line moves back to the Chargers, do we then move on Chargers? There's a lot to talk about in this game. And I have a history of beating preseason football. Now, it's only been 4 full years. This is year 5 of hammering it, and I didn't beat it. I was barely under a negative ROI last year, which upset me, and I have not got off to a good start. Tonight's important to me, and tomorrow's important to me. So there is the NFL. And Marco Lou just bet the under. I love hearing that. So let's talk about CFL quickly. Then we're going to get into WNBA. 6 straight winners in the WNBA. We're at our high water mark there. Let's talk about Redblacks, Alouettes very quickly. Percival Molson Memorial Stadium in Montreal, Quebec. 72 Fahrenheit, partly cloudy, 4 miles per hour. It's amazing how bad the Elks have been over the last few years, and the Redblacks now have the modern-day CFL losing record, 15 straight games dating back to last year. And Topset says there has to be some information out there that we are missing. Yeah, there has. And I went deep last night for hours. I barely slept. So, but again, we'll keep looking at it. But here, let's get to this one. The last 5 games, the Redblacks have lost by an average of 18.3 points per game. Now they're playing the best team in the league. I think it's clear. They were the best team in the league last year, although we had an issue. And the issue was Davis Alexander's hamstring. That's not an issue this year, but there are Alouette fans concerned about the hamstring. This line's gone from 12.5 to 13. 13-point favorites. This total is now to 61.5. It's dropped a point. Interesting. We could have got that under 62.5 last night. It's dropped a full point today. Again, if Ottawa does anything offensively, the Alouettes will answer immediately. If Ottawa does nothing offensively, the Alouettes will, just run the clock with Travis Tice, who's such an absolute monster, and be in control the whole game. The problem is the Redblacks can't run the ball. Greg Bell, who is a huge, huge investment for them in the offseason, their big investment, is horrible. He's being horrible this year. Last game, he ran 6 times for 17 yards. So you have the Alouettes have a Week 10 smack of the Elks, the only team that beat them. Then they have the bye week, and now they're here back at home. Why wouldn't they absolutely annihilate the Alouettes if they need to? Davis Alexander, most outstanding player numbers. I mean, the guy's an absolute beast. Tice is just, in July alone, 435 yards and 61 carries. He's gone for over 103 of his last 4 games. And this Ottawa team gives up 117.9 yards per game on the ground. So if Montreal just wanted to, control the pace of the game and have the ball for 40-plus minutes, they would just run the ball heavy. So, and to make matters worse for the Redblacks, the Alouettes have 4 defensive starters coming back after the bye week. And some are big, like getting Wesley Sutton back, defensive back, getting Jeffrey Canton-Arcou, linebacker back. So, it would, and TJ says Montreal's 5-0 against spread in the last 5 overall, 5-0 against spread as favorite, 7-1 against spread in the last 8 at home. Why not again? Well, who did they not cover against at home? It was the Redblacks. Now the Redblacks got that run back. The way I see this is the Alouettes could be up 20-plus points going into the fourth quarter. Jake Maier is going to throw the ball all over the field. Now, Slatsy's on the Alouettes minus 13. Maybe this is just a simple... Look, I did it with the Bombers last week. I took the Bombers minus 7, took the Bombers double result. I don't feel like... I mean, Alouettes easily covered this number when they went into Ottawa. I mean, I guess I don't know. It's just such a big number, man. It's such a big number. When the Owls went into Hamilton and Hamilton had Trey Ford starting at quarterback, the Owls covered that game. They didn't deserve to. They kind of wore down the Ticats and they put up like 14 points in the last 2 minutes. I don't know. I don't want. If I was crushing CFL and we're in 2 weeks, I'll be back in the black overall in the season. Went 6-2 last week, but then I would bet the under. I would bet maybe the Owls, but it's very expensive. I love my 2 bets in the CFL so far for this week, and TJ's taking the 12.5 at minus 22. 120. I don't think you need to worry about the 12.5. Honestly, I think you could take the 13. I mean, if with a lower vig, cut the vig down. I don't think the 12.5 is important at that number. If you push the 13, then obviously I'm wrong. All right, let's roll on. But Slatsy, TJ on the Owls. I'll keep thinking about it. Let's get into the WNBA. WNBA was great. It was absolutely great. Last night, we cashed the Mystics, and we were fortunate to do so. We paid for the 9 for 2 units, and I'm shocked that they scored a basket with a few seconds left to make it an 11-point spread. That wouldn't happen in the NBA. So I was astonished that they did that. So that was fortunate. And then I didn't bet the Valkyries game. I was going back and forth with TJ about it. I just didn't have the confidence in it. I wasn't sure that it certainly didn't feel like the dream or the sky. Like the line didn't feel completely out of whack. And I knew the Godfather was really believed in the Lynx. And so I stayed off that game. And then on our night show, we took the live line, the 13.5, plus 13.5 on the Valkyries, and we all cashed the live bet. So it was wonderful work. We've cashed 6 straight in the WNBA, and we have hit our high watermark here, high watermark on the season. And it's great. We're 74-53, 58.3%. We're up 14.4 units. ROI plus 11.34%. Average line minus 112. So let's get into it. AM said this morning the Wings were plus 4, then down to the Wings plus 2, and now the Wings are plus 2.5. Well, I can tell you how I feel about this Fever game, and that's that I don't want them here. I don't want them here. Now the Wings just found out the FUD is done for the rest of the year, so they're just going to be an average team. But the Fever coming off their 5th straight win, 101-95 at Toronto on Tuesday. It was sold out at Scotiabank Center. It was just a big, big deal. And then yesterday they had to fly from Toronto to Dallas. That's a long flight. And then they play a angry Wings team that have lost 5 of 6. I knew that I didn't want them. So here at BetOnline, they opened up at plus 2.5. They get up to plus 4 at 8:30 this morning. Now they're sitting here at a plus 3. So it's not gone back to 2.5 yet, but it's a 1-point move towards Dallas. And I agree with it. When we get to the total, we got a 186.5. That's now a 185, juice to the over. And look at that. Justin McKelvey, Dallas Wings, plus 130 in his pocket. Wow. And Jerry Davis just played Ottawa under 25 points in the Argo money line. I love those bets. Wow. Okay, so let's talk. Wow. Interesting. That's, and AM has been, backing the Wings since last night. Wow. Because I don't like the spot for the Fever. Kelsey Mitchell went for 29. She's listed as probable with an illness. And again, I don't want to put on the tinfoil hat, but I was watching the this video of Caitlin and Sophie and another player eating Canadian snacks. And Caitlin wasn't really on camera, but she was coughing. She was coughing the whole time. Not a deep cough, but she was coughing the whole time. And then you have Kelsey Mitchell sick, but she's probable to play. Caitlin Clark probably to play with a back injury. It's game 3 of a 5-game road trip, and that's a long flight. Wings got the bad news about Fudd. They come in off their 5th loss in 6 games, 78-78 the Valkyries on Monday. Beckers goes for 21, and Ogunbowale went for 17. Lana Smith 13-5. They got Jessica Shepard back from injury. She scored 4 points, 7 rebounds in 26 minutes. They have a rest advantage. So with all of this said and done, let's take a look at the cash flow, because I guess the Wings are starting to become appealing, and they weren't earlier. You have 86% of the tickets on Indiana and 53% of the cash. Wow, it's down to 2.5 at all the legal books. Well. Yeah, I think it deserves a bet, probably. I did not expect that. Feels like the Wings should be bet. Jerry and circa down to a 2. Wow, or earlier. Jerry Davis on Fever money line at plus 100 with a promo. Okay, so I have interest in the Wings now. I didn't want the Fever. I knew I didn't want the Fever. Very, very interesting. All right, next spot on the board, 10 p.m. Eastern. Connecticut Sun 9-25, 3-13 on the road at Las Vegas Aces, 24-13, 11-7 at home. Well, you know me, Justin. I will take. It'll be a safe bet for me. I love points in my pocket. So, Michelob Ultra Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. Connecticut Sun come in off that 85-77 win at home over the LA Sparks on Tuesday. It was their annual TD Garden game. Their last TD Garden game, because they're moving to Houston next season. It was a huge deal to them. It was their most important game of the year. We cashed them first quarter and first half. We got our money. And now they have to head to Aces and play a very angry Aces team. The question I had to continue asking myself was, do the Aces care the fact that they've lost these last 2 games against, teams they're going to have that might be a problem? Well, the Lynx are certainly going to be a problem. And then, we'll see if they get a chance to mess with the dream. But 2 straight losses. Justin McKelvey stacks play today. Number 2 is Vegas Aces minus 14.5. I moved on them last night, and I even text TJ like 2 in the morning saying, look, I just moved on the Aces. I was really hoping that this would just keep moving and moving and moving towards the Aces. Now, the other teams I think would be real angry about these last 2 losses. I don't think the Aces are. I mean, they know what they have. They know they're going to be there when push comes to shove and it comes playoff time. They're the defending champs. But let's talk about the Connecticut Sun a little bit more. Nelson Ododa scored 18. Kennedy Burke went for 17. Diamond Miller went for 13. Now, Aaliyah Edwards and Brittany Griner have missed the last 2 games. We're not sure if they play here, but, if they play, Kennedy Burke and Diamond Miller will take, a cut in minutes, and they're playing pretty well. So I don't think it's, And Justin saying Becky Hammond's got tossed against the Dream. Aces off 2 straight losses. Get right, smack spot. I think that makes sense. I mean, I bet it. I think that makes sense here, And so I was wondering if I was going to add the first half today, and I still am, but I thought we'd be dealing with a big move. The Aces coming off their second straight home loss, 97-82 setback at home versus the Dream. Asia went for 27-14 and 4 blocks. Jackie Young went for 24 and 4 threes. Chelsea Gray went for 13 points. But listen, the issue here is their bench is doing squad ass nothing. Their reserves combined for 8 points. It's really going to hurt them. It's really, really, really going to hurt them. Yeah, TJ, I read the Clay Travis stuff, This total went from 170.5 to 168, and then on the point spread here, we're sitting at a 14. Unfortunately, I just timed this wrong. I'm sitting here with a 14.5. So I don't like where I stand, and let's take a look at the cash flow. Let's see. Is everyone thinking about the 71% of the tickets and 61% cash on Vegas? So it's not that public. 94 and 91 on the under. I'll have to study longer to decide if I want to add the first half. I'm hesitant to do so. I thought, Okay, let's roll on. Let's roll on to our final spot on the board here. Atlanta Dream, LA Sparks. Dream 22 and 13, 10-7 on the road. Sparks 12 and 23, 5 and 11 at home. We're at Crypto.com in Los Angeles, California. Here's another spot that I knew I wanted. I want to fade the Dream off that win in Vegas. I want to fade them badly. But I want to time it right. Where Crypto.com in Los Angeles, California, there's a lot of reasons why I want to, and we'll get into it here in a second. This has moved to a 9 from an 8. That was the go-to point for AM. He said when this got to a 9, he was going to move. I think we might be able to get more than a 9. I'm going to hold off for a minute. This total went from 182.5 down to 180.5. The Dream coming off their third win in 4 games. 97-82 at the Aces on Tuesday. Howard went for 23. Angel Reese went for 21 and 10. They continue to play without Breonna Jones, who's out with a leg injury, but it doesn't seem to be affecting them at all. When you get to the cash flow here, you have 63% of the tickets and 61% of cash on Atlanta, so they're not that public. 89% of tickets on the under and 89% of cash on that under. And I'm not Marco Lu. I'm still just with my old school format. With my local, that 25% in and out every Friday is a real benefit for me. Allows me to bet out of my tax bracket, as you guys see. Let's talk about the Sparks. They're coming off their 5th straight loss, 85-77 at Connecticut on Tuesday in the TD Garden game. Ray Burrell went for 19, Ogumake went for 18, and Dearica Hamby went for 15. So there's a couple things in play here. Three things. One, Ogumake announced that she's retiring at the end of the season. I think that's going to give accountability to the Sparks for the rest of the season. So I expect them to play hard for Nika. That's the expectation. You know, she's a Hall of Famer and hugely respected. And these are her last few games. I think they play hard. So there's the first one. Then you have Okoa Makani probable and Cameron Brink probable. So Makani missed 5 games, and there'll be some restrictions. And Cameron Brink missed the last 2 games. So they're both coming back. And in the NBA, you'd think, well, that will mess with their rhythm, and you want to. I don't know if you can call Okoa or Brink star players, but when the star player comes back, you want to fade. I don't. That's just not the case in WNBA. They give you honest efforts, and this is going to help them a lot with Okoa and Brink back. So I want to move on the Sparks, and I'm going to. I just want to time it right, which I didn't do in the Raiders game. So that's where I stand, and that's where I am. That's the WNBA. We've hit 6 in a row. I'm going to be on the Sparks tonight, but come on, I want more points. Give me more. And if it goes to 8.5, that's fine. That's fine. That should give me more confidence. Then I'm on the Aces. The question is, do I add the Aces first half? That'll be the question that I'll deal with here after the show. I want to get my action in as completely and comfortably as possible so that I can focus on tomorrow's card. The first half here for Las Vegas is 8.5. There's been 5 cents of movement towards Connecticut first half. Connecticut's been good in first halves too. Maybe it's best just to stick with the full game. We'll see. But that's where I stand in the WNBA. So I think you guys are right. I held the fever with suspicion, and now the line is telling me that I should, act on it. And that's what I plan to do. That is our show for today. Let's review our plays of the day, our specialty plays of the day. The shotgun play of the day. We didn't talk about this. This was delivered to us on our last night's nightly bag from Ron Crawford. Shotgun play of the day is the St. Louis Cardinals. Yeah, Dougie Wise, the Chargers have dominated the joint practices, and the 49ers dominated the Titans practices, and we're 6.5-point dogs. Here the line's moving towards the 49ers. It's insane. I got to sit with it for longer. Then we have Stacks play today number 1, Burleson over 2.5 hits, runs, and RBIs at +110. Stacks play today number 2, Aces -14.5 and -112. Josh Witt, barn burner pick of the day, Astros team total over 3.5, and Alvarez over 1.5 hits, runs, and RBIs parlay. Pig Milk play today, the Cardinals first 5 money line. Free Bands play today, the Royals -130. Colin Gregory play of the day is the White Sox first 5 money line. Braves money line is Turnbuckle Tommy's favorite bet of the day. Nine Legacies play of the day is the Atlanta Braves. He's also on the Wings plus 3.5 and the Sparks plus 8.5. Robert Cherry Pamper Pop parlay of the day. This is a big one. Guardians and the under 7. A's first 5 plus a half. Yankees money line. Braves money line. Tigers money line. Nats money line. Johnny Bender play of the day. Orioles at plus 107. And TJ has delivered his card as well. St. Louis Cincinnati under 9. San Francisco first 5 plus a half at plus 108. A's Kansas City first 5 under 4.5 minus 110. White Sox money line plus 100. New York Baltimore first 3 under 2.5 and minus 125. New York Baltimore first 5 under 4 and minus 106. AM has already moved on the Sky plus 6.5 and Tempo plus 1.5. The Wager Detective joining us late. Wager Detective, it's great to see you. Cardinals money line for the Wager Detective in that first game of the day. Thank you guys so much for running with us. Wager Detective AM, Thomas Maggio, Josh Witt, Man Bear, Pig, Big Zo, Ayo, D, Johnny, Preston, TJ, Marco, Lou, Billy, Friedrich, The Sweaty, Butcher, Dougie, Wise, Morgan, Spooner, Nasty, Nate, Addy. Thank you guys. Slow Jams, Arsenal. Thank you guys so much, man. Let's go get this cash. Have a great time. I will join you guys over at the Daily Sesh, popping off in 9 minutes. But in the meantime, thank you, Agent Parlay. In the meantime, let's get this money, man. We are running exactly the way we want to be. Last 2 days, 28 and 11 plus 15.85 units. I broke the curse of following up a spectacular day. So now let's go 3 straight winning days. Let's get this money, man. On behalf of all of us, Pub Sports Radio, thank you guys so much for supporting us. Now let's go succeed. We put in the work. Let's earn the rewards. Leche! Hey, los bookmakers.
It's easier to sleep in the black. When you're losing your ass and feeling so, you know what to do. Tune in to Pub Sports Radio. Easier to sleep in the black. It's easier to sleep in the black. It's a roller coaster ride, you're gonna catch a bad beat. No problem, keep your head up and just bet the spreadsheet. It's easier to sleep in the black. It's easier to sleep in the black. All thanks to Jeff Slaughter, these shows have our backs. POD's always rolling, especially the stats. Easier to sleep in the black. It's easier to sleep in the black. We got Jimmy, Jose, Dabby and the fam, Dutch Wine Time, Spooner and OG Wham. So hit the like button, don't say that you can't. If you know what's best, just put your money on tape.